Muy buenos días a todas las personas que están conectadas en este momento. Mi nombre es Camila Flores, yo hago parte del equipo de Consejería Académica y Relaciones Internacionales y hoy estaremos realizando un webinar con Tilburg University. Hoy nos está acompañando Anka Costea, quien estará realizando la presentación. Y quería recordarles que durante este webinar ustedes pueden estar haciendo sus preguntas en el chat que encuentran en la parte inferior de las pantallas y así pueden ser resueltas al finalizar la presentación. Y antes de comenzar, también quería recordarles que con esta universidad tenemos un descuento de al menos el 30% sobre el valor de la matrícula para los beneficiarios de Colfuturo admitidos en programas con matrículas superiores a 10.000 euros. El apoyo se ofrece para Masters in Science por 1 año y para Research Masters por 2 años. Anka, welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Buenos dias, and that's pretty much it. That's right there. Thank you guys for joining this session. My name is Anka Costa, and I am an original international student of Tilburg University, a former one. I graduated my master's degree here in 2017. I'm originally from Romania, and for the last 3 years, I've been working as an international recruiter for Tilburg University. So I can help you with whichever information or questions you have about admission conditions, about our master's programs, about Tilburg University, about studying in the Netherlands in general, but I can also help you with the international student perspective because I've been in your shoes. So I'm going to start the presentation. I don't aim this presentation to be longer than maybe 20 minutes, and I'm going to ask you to please post your questions in the chat during the presentation if you come up with any. So at the end, we can gradually tackle upon all of them. And we're going to start now. Again, for any questions that you might have, please post them in the chat. So let's begin. The structure of the presentation today is going to offer you a couple of information about studying in the Netherlands, about Tilburg University, about the master's, regular master's and research master's programs that we offer here at Tilburg University. But since the Colfuturo scholarship also applies for PhDs, we're also going to discuss a bit about how it works to be a PhD student in the Netherlands and at Tilburg University in particular. Then we're going to talk about admissions and application, about financial reasons, of course, and we're going to have the Q&A session at the end. So a couple of reasons why our students usually choose the Netherlands in general, and one of the main advantages of studying in the Netherlands is the high amount of English taught programs. So there are more than 2,000 English taught programs offered by Dutch universities, and which means that you don't have to speak Dutch at all. I've been living in the Netherlands for 4 years now, and I can have a very basic conversation at the supermarket, or I can tell my friends good night, goodbye, and enjoy your food. But other than that, that's pretty much my limitations in terms of Dutch, and I can attest to the fact that the Netherlands has one of the highest level of English for a non-English speaking country. So if you're worried about moving to another country where they speak a very peculiar language, I had the same anxiety as you probably do have, but I can assure you that it's not going to be a problem here at Tilburg University or in the Netherlands in general. And on top of this diversity of programs that you can study in the Netherlands, you also have excellent and innovative education offered by most universities. So all Dutch research universities, and we're talking about Tilburg University, Leiden University, Groningen, Eindhoven University of Technology, Amsterdam University, and so on. There are 13 in total. All of them are ranked as top 250 best universities in the world by Times Higher Education, just to give you a small indication of the type of quality of education that you will be getting. And this gets me to the financial part as well, because in the Netherlands, the tuition fees are rather small compared to other countries, such as the United Kingdom, for example, or I'm not even going to talk about the United States. So the tuition fee is a fraction of what students would pay in other countries. So that's another huge advantage as well. It's also one of the safest and happiest countries in the world, and Dutch people are also one of the healthiest people in the world. Maybe because their food is quite bad, so they don't really eat it. No, I'm joking, of course, but they are statistically one of the happiest, healthiest, and safest countries in the world. And there's also a highly educated multilingual workforce. And again, I can attest to that. The Netherlands is home of so many nationalities. Tilburg University is home of over 130 nationalities. Some people do decide to stay here and start their career in the Netherlands. Some people decide to go back home, but in case you do decide to remain in the Netherlands and to live here, then what I can recommend you to do is maybe take a look on LinkedIn, for example, at the highly tech companies such as Tesla, which has its headquarters in Tilburg, the European headquarters, or Philips, or Netflix, or Booking.com. So Netherlands is a home of all these highly tech and creative industries businesses, which makes for a diverse cluster of nationalities that work for them, because they are looking for this diversity. A couple of information about Tilburg University. I'm going to keep it short. So Tilburg University is located in the city of Tilburg, which is in the south of the Netherlands, and you will see it marked on your screen. This area of the Netherlands, the south, which is a combination between Tilburg, Den Bosch, that's another city, and Eindhoven, that's another city. So they form this triangle, is known as the Silicon Valley of Europe. And that is because in this area of Europe, so in this south of the Netherlands, this is where you find the largest number of patents filed every year. And it's also due to the high tech companies that reside in the area, and also due to the universities that do research in technology, but also in law, business, social sciences. So this is why it's known as the Silicon Valley of Europe, because there's a lot of innovation going on here. It's also very close to other countries. Netherlands is called the gateway of Europe, just because it's so easy to travel around the world, not only within the continent, so not only within European countries, but also outside the continent. So from Amsterdam to London, it's about 45 minutes by plane. You can easily get to Brussels by car from Tilburg in about 1 hour and a half. To Berlin, you'll get there in about 2 hours and 15. So it's quite close to travel around the city, the countries and Europe. Unfortunately, nowadays in the COVID-19 context, it's not that easy to travel around, but then again, we hope that slowly by slowly, we're gonna get back to as normal of a context as possible. About the city itself, Tilburg has a bit over 200,000 inhabitants. So this might not seem big at all, especially if you live in Bogota, for example, but I can tell you that the Netherlands is not home to these large metropolitan cities. So the largest city in the Netherlands is Amsterdam, which is under 900,000 inhabitants. And then Rotterdam, where I live now, it's about 500 something thousand. So Tilburg is the 7th largest one, even though it has 200,000 inhabitants. But you should know that out of those, almost 30,000 are students. So it's a student-oriented city, it's a peaceful one, and there are lots of nationalities from all around the world present in the city, because Tilburg University is not the only university that's based in Tilburg. And on your screen, you will see a picture from the top week, which is our introduction week every summer and every February before the studies start. And this is how it usually look, as you would see it on your screen, a week full of parties. This year, this is how it looked. So we had to do everything in front of cameras due to the health restrictions. But again, we hope that slowly by slowly we'll get back to normal. And a couple of reasons why Tilburg University students choose Tilburg University. I will start with the strong focus on global issues, because this is really what differentiates Tilburg University from other universities, which means that regardless what you're going to study, so whether you want to study economics, or you want to study finance, or you want to study philosophy or psychology or data science or artificial intelligence or law, regardless of all these fields, you will always approach societal issues and you will try to find solutions for them. And if this seems a bit abstract, maybe I can give you a concrete example of what that means. So how do you take societal issues and how do you find solutions for them? Let's take data science, for example, which is a very technical field. A couple of years ago, the United Nations program, which is called World Food Program, that's what it's called. So through these program, they send food and resources to several countries such as Iraq, for example, or Yemen or Syria, where they have social and political issues, where they have war zones and so on and so forth. And World Food Program challenged Tilburg University professors and data science students to find an algorithm that will optimize their food chain. their food distribution chain. And this is what they did. They worked on a project to optimize this distribution of food. And in just 2 years' time, they saved more than 20 million euros just by creating that data science algorithm. So just to give you an indication of the type of approach that the university has. We also have a green campus. All the pictures that you will see in this presentation are taken on our campus. We have one of the few compact campuses in the Netherlands. And what that means is that usually within European universities, you'll have to travel around the city in order to get to classes, because universities are quite large and they have buildings in several parts of the city, sometimes several cities as well. However, Tilburg University has a compact campus. That means that everything is on the same spot. So all your buildings are there, your laboratories, you have several restaurants on campus that you can eat, the libraries on campus, the sport center, so the gym is about 5-10 minutes walking from the university. So it's really accessible and easy to reach within your classes. There are also lots of opportunities for extracurricular activities. Of course, that you can be part of a numerous number of study associations, law association, economics association, debate clubs, and so on. Like we have a UN model going on our campus as well. But also you can do things with your free time, either working part-time or just, I guess, enjoying your time and partying like any other international student will do. There's also student counseling and support offered. We have psychologists on campus that can help students who are struggling, for example, with homesick. It might happen that you arrive in the Netherlands and you feel that maybe the weather is not so good, or the food is not excellent, or maybe you just don't like it that much. Then there are people in place that can assist you with that, because it's not the easiest activity to be an international student. It's one of my favorite activities and one of the best decisions that I made in my life, deciding to study abroad and get this international experience. But it also, not everything is pink, so you're going to struggle as well. But I think that at the end, it's all worth it. Also, there are a couple of extra facilities on campus that you can benefit from. So each school of Tilburg University has a career center, and there's also a centralized career center where we have employees that can help you with building up your future employee profile, with building up your LinkedIn profile, your CV, with giving you recommendations about where you could work with your skills. There are also several career events organized on campus. Even during COVID-19, we organize them online, where we have a couple of our major business partners that come on campus and organize all sorts of activities for our students. And we are also leaders in the fields of business, economics, psychology, and law. And I'm going to briefly present you the rankings overview of it a bit later on in this presentation. And about the international environment that I keep talking about. So out of the almost 18,000 students that Tilburg University has, because we are a rather medium-sized university, more than 3,700 are international students, and they're coming from more than 130 countries from all around the world on all levels. So bachelor's, master's, pre-master's, PhD, and so on and so forth. And on your screen, you will see just an overview of the major ones. But again, we have more than that. So lots of Italians, Bulgarians, Romanians, Croatians, Spanish, Indians, Russians, Vietnamese, Colombian as well, South Koreans, Americans, British people, Hungarians, Portuguese, French, and so on and so forth. So it's really a multinational space. And from my perspective of a former international student that graduated here, I can tell you that living and studying in an international environment doesn't only enrich you academically, because let's say, for example, that you study a class in economics and you discuss the effect of a certain governmental decision on the general macroeconomics of a country. Then when you have that debate in class, it's not going to be just you and a Dutch person that's going to bring two different perspectives, but you're also going to have somebody from India, which might interpret that decision completely different, and somebody else from Great Britain who will bring a different perspective, somebody from Russia, somebody from Colombia, somebody from Romania, and so on. So it really enriches you academically, but also socially. And it's not only about having accommodation spaces all around the world now, because you really make friends from all around the world. But I think that you really grow in this diversity because you find more about more people, and you become more tolerant as well, and you learn more. So don't take it lightly, because being an international student brings advantages and and struggles on multiple levels. But again, for me and for most of the people that I work with now, and my colleagues, my friends, my international colleagues as well, they have the same opinion and the same take on the matter, that that you really grow in this type of diversity. And also not only your students, your colleagues, pardon, will be internationals, but also your lecturers. So 40% of our professors come from abroad, and that includes the PhD students, which sometimes are assistant professors. And on your screen, you will see an overview of the rankings that we have here at Tilburg University. So as you can see, we are highly ranked in business and economics in general. That's indeed our strongest profile. So we are ranked as number 6 in the world by Shanghai Global Rankings in terms of business administration. We are ranked as number 28 in law in the world. So these are world rankings. Number 15 psychology. In economics, we are actually number 2 in Europe and number 1 in the Netherlands. But in the world, we are ranked as 33 by Times Higher Education, and so on. If you have more questions about rankings, of course, that we can take them at the end. About the master's programs that we offer here, generally at a research university level and at Tilburg University, you will find master's programs that take usually 1 year to complete. Of course, that there are some master's programs, for example, data science and entrepreneurship offered jointly with Eindhoven University of Technology, which takes 2 years to complete, but that's an exception. And then you can also extend your master's if you want to. So if you're studying economics or business, or if you're studying social sciences, you can add 6 months, for example, to your master's programs by either getting a double degree, so studying 6 more months at a different university that are our partners, or you can do a traineeship for 6 months, so work in a private company and then write your thesis based on the experience that you get there. So it can get up to 2.5 years, depending on the options that you want to take to extend them. But usually you should be able to finish the master's degree in 1 year if this is what you want. We also have research masters available, and we're going to talk about those. The research masters take 2 years to complete, and they are the masters that usually students that want to do a PhD do. And we're going to talk about your PhD options as well. So these research masters are very academically oriented. You learn way more research methods and analysis methods throughout this type of masters compared to a regular master's programs. And every single one of our programs has a separate program and courses webpage on our website, where you can see exactly the classes that you will be taking during your 1 year or 2 years of master's programs, what electives you have, so what can you do on top of the mandatory classes. There's also a description for every single class with who's going to be your professor, how is your grade going to look, what type of topics you will be discussing during that class, what kind of books you need to read, how will your assignments look, how will your exams look, and so on. So highly advisable in order to make an informed decision is to check our website. And all master's programs that we are going to discuss to them, needless to say, are taught in English. You can learn Dutch for free at the university. So we offer 2 free language courses for all of our students. You can learn Dutch, you can learn Mandarin, you can learn Arabic, French, Spanish, but that's not needed for you. But bottom line, you could learn Dutch, and it's highly advisable, of course, especially if you decide to study in the Netherlands, but it's not mandatory in order to study here, because your instruction language will be English. And we offer more than 60 English taught master's programs. So of course that we cannot just go through all of them, but I will mainly present you the fields that we offer our master's programs within, and you will also see on your screen a couple of examples. So within business and management master's programs, you can study international management, for example, or accountancy, finance, supply chain management, marketing analytics, if you want to go more towards data analytics. We also have economics and econometrics masters, which are a bit more quantitative, so more based on mathematics and not necessarily that much on business, such as econometrics and mathematical economics for those of you who really like mathematics, quantitative finance, business analytics, and so on. And we also offer a research master in economics in that regard. Our communication, digital sciences, culture and philosophy masters, such as business communication and digital media, or communication and cognition, communication and information sciences, new media and design. Our law master's program, so we are specialized in several fields of law, either European law or business tax law, if you want to top it up with that. Law and technology, which is one of our most popular masters at the moment, public administration, and so on. our social and behavioral sciences, so those based on either psychology, sociology, human resources, cognitive neuropsychology. You can specialize in newer research fields such as positive psychology and well-being. And we also offer the research master's programs in psychology and social and behavioral sciences. If you want to study data science and artificial intelligence at Tilburg University, that's also possible. So we offer business analytics and operations research, cognitive science and artificial intelligence, data science and society, which is actually a master's program designed for those students who don't have a programming background. So if you want to study data science and entrepreneurship, for example, you need to have a bachelor's degree where you tackled already with programming classes and data science. But let's say that you studied psychology up to this point, or business, or I don't know, law, and you decide that you want to have a master in data science, then we created one a couple of years ago that's designed for people that don't have a technical background, and they're basically going to take it from scratch. That's the point of it when it comes to data science and programming. And we also offer master's programs in theology called Christianity and Society, where you focus on multiple religions. So it's not only the Christian religion. Then about the extra options that you have if you want to study at Tilburg University. So as I said, you can do an additional master's programs and get a double degree by studying at another university, or you can add 6 months to your program by working for a private company. About the PhD programs that we offer here in the Netherlands. So maybe just to give you a brief context when it comes to PhDs in the Netherlands, which you can only do at research universities, by the way. So when you are a PhD student, let's put it this way, at Tilburg University, you become an employee of the university. So that's how it goes. You're not just a student. So you work for a university in a way. You're either an assistant professor or you just do research. So you do research in a specific field. And our PhDs usually take from 3 to 5 years, and most of them are started with a research master's program, and you have on your screen a couple of the options that you can take, which also relate to the financial part. So you can either be a PhD student employed by Tilburg University, which usually comes after a research master's. You can be an external PhD student, but then you need to have your own funding. You can be a PhD student with a grant, which we're going to talk about, or you can be a dual PhD student employed by Tilburg University and another party. So if you have a company, for example, that would sponsor your PhD. If you have more information about it, you can find it on our website, but that's how it usually goes. And when you apply for a PhD position, you apply for a job, basically. So you will find it under the vacancies. Or you can go the unofficial way, which is if you already have a research idea in mind and you have already a research methodology in place and so on and so forth, and then you pitch it to Tilburg University, then that can also happen. But realistically, you would have to go through a research master's first. And our schools that offer PhD programs are all of our schools, actually. So the economics and business part, humanities and digital sciences, social and behavioral sciences, law school, and the School of Theology. So all of these offer PhD openings. And after graduation, you can, as a non-EU citizen, you can apply for a working visa, which we call an orientation year. So all students that graduate in the Netherlands, if they want to, they can obtain a 1-year working visa. And in that year, you'll have full working rights, and you have to find an employer, of course, and then your future employer, in case you want to decide to continue in the Netherlands, will further guarantee your visa. A couple of information about admission and application. So we're going to talk about the master admission requirements, because the PhDs, as I said, is a bit of a different story. So you need a bachelor's degree that's relevant in the program field that you want to study. So if you want to study finance, for example, you need to have sufficient finance background within your bachelor's programs, and the same goes for any other of our programs. On top of that, you will need an English proficiency test. That's quite standard for any research university, any international university, actually. We accept 3 of those: IELTS, TOEFL, and Cambridge C1 or C2, formerly known as CA or CPE. You will have your scores on your screen, but you should know that for research masters, you need slightly higher scores. So for example, for TOEFL, you need 100 points. On top of that, if you want to study anything that has to do with economics, you will need a GRE test. And if you want to study anything that has to do with business, you need a Gmat test. These are 2 quantitative standardized tests. And about how to submit an application, it's free of charge at Tilburg University, and you can submit for a maximum of 3 programs. And it's quite straightforward. So you first need to register in Studia Link, which is the governmental platform in the Netherlands, where you just register for the universities. And then within 48 hours, you're going to receive an invitation link to submit an application in our online application system, which is Osiris. And in that system, all you need to do is submit the documents that you need to apply with. So every one of our programs has a separate application and admission page where you will find a complete list of the documents that you need to submit. But I can tell you the usual ones. So of course, a copy of your course descriptions, so the courses that you've taken throughout your bachelor's programs and your grades as well, your diploma, if it's already available, a copy of your passport, results of an English proficiency test, results of a GRE or a Gmat test. You also need a motivation letter. Some programs will ask for recommendation letters, a number of 2. For other programs, you will need to submit a CV. That's quite common as well. Others will ask for an essay or a copy of your bachelor's thesis or an academic essay. So it really depends per program, but you will never be taken by surprise again, because everything is on our website if you want to check it out. And in terms of the master application deadlines, we have 2 intakes. All of our programs have a September intake, so that starts at the end of August, and the deadline is April 1st for non-EU students. And some of our programs have a February intake as well, which means that you can start in February and for Christmas. And the academic deadline, the application deadline for this February intake has passed for non-EU students. It was October 1st, but if you have a dual nationality or a European Union nationality as well, then you still have until December 1st to submit an application. And just briefly about the cost, I think I'm a bit over time, apologies for that. So the tuition fees start from 2,143 euros for master's programs, for research master's programs. So all of our research master's programs have the same tuition fee for both EU and non-EU nationals. And it can get up to 14,000 or even 16,000 for 2 of our master's programs per year. And then in terms of cost of living, you can count on about 800 euros up to 1,000 euros per month, just at a general budget, which includes accommodation, transportation, food, medical insurance, the books that you need to buy, and so on. About housing, very important if you decide to study in the Netherlands, not only at Tilburg University, but in the Netherlands in general, is to look for accommodation in time. You mainly have 2 options in Tilburg. You can either live in one of the private dorms, or you can live in a regular apartment, a student house, or a studio in the private market. And if you go to the website that I posted on the slides, so tilburguniversity.edu/accommodation, you will find detailed information about your options in terms of accommodation and a couple of recommendations for online platforms that you can look for a room or an apartment. And you'll also find there the contact details of the housing officer that can assist you with looking for a job. And about the scholarships that we offer, so of course we're going to talk about the Col Futuro scholarship, which is a loan scholarship available for master's and PhD candidates from Colombia, so for Colombian citizens. And the way that it goes is that you receive from Tilburg University a 30% tuition fee waiver for programs that are more expensive than 10,000 euros, which is all of our programs with the exception of the research masters. And from Col Futuro, you'll receive this loan scholarship that can get up to 50,000 euros for a maximum of 2 years. And if you have more questions about that, then we can talk about it at the end. There are also more scholarships available, such as the Orange Knowledge Program or the, I hope that I'm pronouncing this correctly, Unidad de Conocimiento Scholarship. But the only full scholarship, so the law scholarship that you can benefit from as a Colombian student is the Col Futuro one. But if you have more questions about other scholarships as well, then you can always access our website and you'll find there the information that, the eligibility criteria and also the information that you need in order to apply for one. And that was pretty much it. Sorry, I'm a bit over time. This tends to be a professional negative point, I guess. And I can start taking your questions.
Anka, thank you so much for this presentation. We have quite a few questions, so I will start now. The first one is from Sebastian, and he says, any chance to study a master and work in the Netherlands at the same time?
That is possible, of course. I did it as well when I studied my master's program, because usually master's students have a bit more time compared to bachelor students because you have less contact hours, so less classes. So you have to put more individual work into it. However, you should know that there is a limitation in the number of hours that you can work as a non-EU citizen. So as a non-EU nationals, you can work for a maximum of 16 hours per week or full-time during the summer. So that's the limitation. And you also need to consider that it's not the easiest task to find a student job that quick. So you need to be prepared. This is the advice that I give students from a personal perspective as well, and just from hearing the stories from other friends or colleagues or just students in general, is that you need to be prepared for at least 6 months financially when you travel to the Netherlands, because nobody can guarantee you that you're going to find a job within the first weeks or the first months. And also you need to get used to the new educational model of the university, to the experience of a student. Also, most master's programs have block system. So instead of having 2 semesters, we'll have 4 blocks, which means that instead of having 2 exam sessions, you'll have 4 exam sessions. So that's quite intense, because in October you already have your first exams and you have midterms as well. So you need to be prepared for a lot of work and individual work as well. But to answer your question concretely, it is possible with the limitations that I just presented.
Great. The next question is kind of related, and it's from Diana, and she asks, how long can I stay at the Netherlands after finishing the master?
So after finishing the master's programs, you can apply for a visa of 1 year. It's called an orientation visa. And if you Google that, then you're easily going to find it. That's granted by the Dutch government. So the university is not involved in that process anymore. But this is the general rule. If you have a degree from a Dutch university, then you can get this 1 year working visa, which you can use, and during that year you will have full working rights and full residentship rights, of course, and you have to find an employer in that 1 year, and that employer will further guarantee your visa on top of that 1 year. The good part is that you can postpone that working visa for 2 or 3 years, which means that, let's say that you graduate in 2022, and you decide that you want to come back to Colombia for 1 year, for example, or 2 years in order to get your affairs in order, you can postpone that visa for two or 3 years. For short 2, I'll have to double check if it's 3. So you can apply for 1 a bit later. So you're not bounded to get that visa right after graduation, although most students do that.
Thank you, Anka. The next one is, do you have any agreement with companies for internships? Maybe you could have a link where you can show the agreements you have.
Sure. So the way that our agreements go is that for some master's programs, especially those connected to business, even if you do it from a classic business perspective or from a business communication perspective, our students can do an internship throughout their studies, or they can add 6 more months to the study, and then they're going to basically write their thesis according to the information that they got from their study. So for example, I had a friend that finished business communication at Tilburg University, and she did her 6-month internship at Philips in Eindhoven, and her thesis was based on the organizational culture of Philips, which she explored throughout her internship there. There isn't a list of internships that you can, of companies that you can do these internships on a general Tilburg University level. However, we do have a list of companies where you can do your extended masters at, because otherwise you could choose any international company. So it doesn't have to be a partner of Tilburg University. And I'm going to look for one. Just give me 1 second, please. So this applies to the extended master's option. So if you study social sciences or economics and business, so only these fields, you can add 6 months of a traineeship. So that's a bit different of an internship, and you can do this at one of our partner universities. And I'm going to look for this one right now. Okay. Okay, I'm going to post first the internship options that we have. Here they are. But again, most of our students find their own internship, so it's not really through the university. And you're going to see there a couple of information about it, and then I'm going to look for the extended master options.
Great. While you're searching for that, Eliana is asking, does the university have a fee for the application to MA?
No, Tilburg University does not charge its applicants in any way. So when you submit your application, it's free of charge, and even if you get accepted into the program, it's still free of charge. So you only pay the tuition fee once you get enrolled into the program, but there's no other fee. What you will have to pay is your visa fee, which is 175 euros when you apply for a visa. However, the university will take care of that entire process. So all you need to do is submit your documents and be in contact with the immigration office, but you won't have to go through to the procedures with the government or the embassy. So the university will take care of that.
Thank you, Anka.
I just posted the link in the chat where you'll find the list of companies where students do the TISEM extended master.
Thank you. The next question is from Daniel, and he says, do I need to have a Holland exam certificate to take any master, or only with the IELTS certificate is okay?
Only an English proficiency certificate is required. So we don't require any Dutch skills if you want to study an English taught program. Of course, that learning Dutch is going to help you with your social integration here and finding a job. So this is, of course, that it's highly recommended to learn Dutch, and you can do it for free at the university because, as I said, you get 2 free language vouchers. However, it's not mandatory. And please mind that none of your tests can be older than 2 years at the moment of application. So if you want to submit your application for a master's that starts in September 2021 now, you can do so because the application system is open. However, your English proficiency test cannot be older than 23rd of November 2018. So the same applies for GRE and Gmat. Another useful piece of information is that you can submit your application without one. So you can submit your application without an English proficiency test for the regular master's programs, and you can get accepted into the program. But in order to get enrolled into the program, you're going to have to send us the details by August 1st, 2021. So if you don't send us the details by then you're not going to be able to join the program. Is the IELTS indicator test valid? No, it's not, unfortunately. So we only accept the academic IELTS test. And so it's either academic IELTS, TOEFL, or Cambridge C1 and C2. The update is that now you can pass the TOEFL online as well. So in the COVID-19 context, admission officers showed some flexibility, and you can pass the online version of it.
Okay, this is a very long question. So maybe if you want me to divide it, that'll be fine.
Sure.
It says, I want to apply to a PhD in philosophy, and currently there are not any vacancy available within my study area. What do you recommend me to apply as an external PhD? Is there any recommended date to contact with a professor or the graduate school?
There isn't a recommended date. So if there's no vacancy there, then the university professors and the academic staff are open towards having these conversations throughout the year. Of course, if you send your email on 20th of December, then there's a high chance that you won't get an answer until after Christmas. So it's only about the vacations that the entire staff takes. But other than that, you can set an appointment with them and send them an email anytime throughout the year. And if you go to Tilburg University Graduate School and you go to the School of Humanities, then you will find there a list of the contact details that you can now use in order to submit your request. But then, of course, you need to have your pitch prepared. So you need to have your research idea prepared and pretty much a plan for it in order to convince them. This is why it's easier to do a PhD if you finish a research master's first.
Great, thank you. The next question is from Sonia, and she says, I am interested on the business communication and the digital media master. I have been looking at the webpage and I would like to apply for January 2022. What are the dates for application?
Question. So the application deadline for the February intake of 2022 will be 1st of October 2021. So you have until 1st of October 2021 to submit your application. If I'm not mistaken, you can already do it, or it's, oh no, actually it starts in February, apologies. So the application system usually opens 1 year before. It might be available, I haven't checked, but still you have until October 1st to submit an application, so you can start gathering your materials for it.
Great. The next one is from Sebastian, and he says, are there any campus classes at the moment?
At the moment, only our bachelor students do have some small scale classes. So the university is following the regulations of the Dutch government when it comes to the safety of our students. And of course, that's our priority. So we do, our campus is open for students. The library is open, the restaurant is still open, of course, with limited choices now. If you want to eat, yeah, there are several study places available and some small scale lectures, but most of the education is online, and that's because we are restricted by the governmental regulations. But our priority, as soon as that will be an option and legal to do it, we will go back to offline education. So before COVID-19, studying online wasn't even an option at Tilburg University, but we had to adapt. And what I can tell you is that every single one of our programs started in September 2020, and all of our programs and our students were guaranteed that they will be able to both follow their classes online, pass their exams online, and graduate within the official time frame of the university. We had bachelor students and master students coming from abroad who decided to come to Tilburg after all, and we encouraged that to get the campus feeling as well and attend the offline classes. But again, it's very limited. And if you go to our website, Tilburg University/Corona, that's the webpage that's the most updated of Tilburg University. Post updates whenever we get them in terms of how the COVID-19 will influence your education.
Perfect. Anka, we have quite a lot of questions, so maybe if you could share again your email address, so any specific cases, situations, or any further questions they have, they can contact you. And while you do that, I'll be asking a few more questions. So the next one is from Ricardo, and he wants to know how much could be an annual budget for studying at Tilburg.
So you can count on a monthly budget of around 800 euros to 1,000 euros, but this budget can also be smaller if you're careful with your finances. Like I lived with less than that in some months when I was still struggling to find a job. So the way that it goes is that the further away that you go from Amsterdam, the cheaper life will become, and not in terms of supermarket prices or restaurant prices, because Netherlands is expensive in general if you want to eat in a restaurant, for example, and the food is pretty much the same price in a supermarket. But in terms of accommodation, you'll pay less. So if you have a limited budget, you can find a smaller room for which you will share the bathroom with somebody else of around 350 euros. And then you can just add the money for food and maybe for some books. So you can get along with 700, 800 euros. And that's again from a personal experience as well. And it can get up to whichever you want. So you can multiply that by the months that you will spend here. And you need to mind the visa cost and also the fact that you're going to have to pay a deposit in the beginning, like 1 or 2 months in advance for your accommodation. So although the monthly budget is not that high, you will have to pay some more money when you move here due to all these, like buying a bike, for example, or paying the accommodation deposit.
Perfect. Anka, I just wanted to make sure that the link you sent is the link where they can ask the questions.
Yes, that's the contact form. I can give you my personal email address as well. So this is the one that is here, but usually if you go through the contact form, then we're going to be able to better assist you because we have multiple colleagues there from different backgrounds. But if anything, I can forward it to them in case I cannot answer. Sorry.
Perfect. So for the last question, it will be, let me go back. If there is a minimum score for GRE or Gmat.
Yes, there is. So again, Gmat is usually designed for business programs, and that's quite common if you want to study in the US as well, or pretty much all over Europe. If you want to study business on a master's level, then you will require a Gmat, and economics is if you're and GRE, sorry, it's required if you study economics, finance, accounting, or anything that's a bit more quantitative. So that's the difference between them. And if you're studying if you want to study economics, then you will need a GRE test with a minimum of 160 for the quantitative part. You need to pass all the others, of course, but what they will look at is your quantitative part. So you need more than 160 for that one. And if you want to study business, then you need more than 550 points per total for the GMAT test. So 550 for GMAT, 160 for GRE for the quantitative part, which is the only one that they will actually take into consideration, but you'll have to pass all of them, of course, because otherwise you fail the test.
For sure. Anka, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for doing the presentation and for answering almost all of the questions.
You're welcome.
I don't know if you want to add something before we finish the webinar.
Not really, other than that my advice for you is to make an informed decision regardless of the country or the university that you will be studying. Look at the curriculum, look at how well the university is performing in a specific field, look at where your employability rates, what employability chances you also have in that country, and that's easily done, for example, just by going on LinkedIn and see how many of the Dutch companies will require the set of skills that I will obtain in a Tilburg University master's programs or another master's programs. And if you want to have an academic career, so if you want to do a PhD, then I advise you to do a research master first. That's going to be the smoothest way into a PhD. And if you don't want to do that research master's first, then I hope that I advise you to have a very well prepared research topic and your methodology and so on and so forth, so that you make a good impression, basically. Because when you don't do a research master first, you really pitch your idea to a university that knows nothing about you at the moment. So you need to be well prepared in terms of CV and motivation and so on. And other than that, yeah, I just hope that I'm going to see you in Tilburg. Be safe and healthy. And if you have any questions, you can always send us an email, because you'll see that Dutch universities in general are very approachable. So don't feel free to ask your questions and talk to current students as well. That was it from my side. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Anka. Les recuerdo que van a poder ver la grabación de este video en nuestro canal de YouTube con Futuro Videos. Y para las personas que nos están viendo y escuchando, el correo de Anka es a.e.costea@tilburguniversity.edu. Y pues pueden escribirle cualquier otra pregunta, duda, inquietud que tengan. Que tengan un feliz día. Have a very nice day.
Feliz día. Bye. Thank you for having me.
Bye.